Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. I'm Inquisitor Temperance Price, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is the third volume in a report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesis adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee and players Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentine, Tyler Hewitt as Attikus Viz, Laura Hamstra as Eli Sharp, and Borovic as Morgan Rawls. My report shows that the Inquisitorial band are active in the Cloud Palace. Morgan and Eli surveilled the defenses and kept Voidstain in line, while Valentine was pulled away from Attikus and made head of palace security by the king. Can Valentine survive leading mortal troops against a space marine with a bomb in his own neck? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
From the Lizardman Letter. Of course you're curious, darlings. Everyone's curious. And I will admit that this humble writer has indeed seen some of the comings and goings in the Cloud Palace. But we mere mortals are meant to dwell down below. Only gods dwell in the clouds. Valentine, you have to pitch a coked-up king on how to kill a space marine. King Frederick is thrilled with your pitch. Of course, not that Forrest Pollard is in any way turning against the crown. There's no evidence of that. No one's saying that. However, if he did. So you find yourself in the command center of the Cloud Palace. As we described, this is one of those big classic James Bond satellite control rooms. There's probably an NPC of Natalia walking into a wall nearby, preventing you from completing the mission. Screens everywhere, but of course 40K, so sharp edges, weird filigree, a little bit of skull motif, a little bit of like scrolled edges to make it feel like an old-timey painting. Everything's got green lines running through it. There are a number of beleaguered staff that you met in the previous episode, all of whom seem to be attentive but overworked. Working for King Frederick seems to be just as exhausting for all these folks as you would kind of imagine it would be. He's also filled you in on the sort of, I want to call them boom tubes, but that's a DC thing. The sort of emergency.
We can call them grav chutes if you want to have something that sounds 40K.
Thank you. I would love that. Patent pending. Warhammer. So yes, the grav chutes are all, again, kind of lining the walls everywhere. They're all over the place. Hidden-ish. They're not really trying to keep them out of sight, but are making them part of the architecture when and where they can, leading up to guard chambers above you full of fast-action troops. So if anything goes wrong, there's a whole bunch of those royal guards who are basically just on call like firefighters all the time to hop in grav tubes and be delivered to anywhere in the Cloud Palace they need to in order to fuck shit up. In the basement is where all the mechanisms to control both the massive grav engines that are keeping it in the air are, as well as all the weather control stuff that has enabled the Cloud Palace to alter the climate of Grey Bridge for the celestial season. You know that your allies from your Inquisitorial band are outside. Eli and Morgan are on the ground with weapons, patrolling outside. Attikus is down where he should be, glad-handing, and because you've just had a bomb implanted in, like, deep up in your skull, you are pretty sure you're about as on side with Frederick as one can be. You've done space coke with him, and you've got a bomb injected under your like throat. So you think you've got this. That said, there is the risk of Space Marine. Also, of course, there is the mission you're on outside of working for all these maniacs. You said you had a plan. What would you like to do?
Valentine's plan would get rattled off very quickly the moment he had functional authority. To be clear, am I pitching the king or am I ordering people around to the command center? What's the vibe on this?
I would say, so you've pitched the king. He's on side. I think we can probably imagine this as Frederick insists on being involved and is likely following you around, asking clarifying questions and other things. So let's start with this. Can you roll me I want to say leadership really want diplomacy, and I think leadership kind of counts for that.
Okay.
Although I'll leave this to you, Ryan. You can pick. I'm basically looking for a role to see how Valentine manages Frederick through all of this. The worse you do, the bigger negative impact he's going to have on your roles to functionally do things, because he's doing that shitty middle manager thing where he's just up in your grill constantly. So
I think I would actually lean deception, because Valentine is trying to position his mission as effectively as possible, but sell it as key to the defense of this building as possible. Because he's like, here's how we're going to stop the Space Marine. It's actually him moving pieces around that help him as it goes. So enough of it is Space Marine that there's a little layer of that on it. There's a patina, but it's also specifically a misdirect.
Okay. I like that. I think I'm still going to need... Because that's about him not discovering what you're doing. I'm purely talking about him getting in the way of what you're doing, which feels like a different thing, but maybe we just add that as setback to the role.
That would make sense to me if I'm like, here's my deceptive plan, and then he's just such a pain in the ass that it's just, it's going to be harder to put in place.
Because if you're pulling it over on a smart person, then all you have to do is lie to them convincingly enough that they go for it. In this case, you also have to make him feel valuable and part of the plan.
Yep,
so
that makes sense.
Okay, I like that. Let's go with that then. So we're going to call this deception. It is, I'm going to look at... I'll take his presence as your difficulty, because his presence is what's getting in your way. So this is going to be 2 red and 2 purple.
Damn, that guy is present.
He's not all there, but he is very
here.
present. He is in the space with you. I will give you a boost for the bomb in your neck. That makes him like you more and trust you more. I'll give you a boost for the space cocaine, because he is weirdly more paranoid, but also more excitable, which probably means that the prospect of what you're doing is kind of fun for him, such that he's not looking too closely as long as it sounds cool. Mm-hmm. You can have a setback for the exhaustion of the people around you. It means that they are not able to receive your orders and we'll still roll to see how you do with them. Mm-hmm. But in your deception, they're not fully there either, because they're all kind of burnt. You've already rolled for your cocaine, and you were fine to metabolize that, and just, I think you said you're just running your tongue over your teeth constantly, but otherwise...
just a little bit amped. He's ready to work, but he's amped.
You've had the fighter pilot meth. This is nothing. This is a joy. I would also probably I will give you a boost for Eugene. I think having a servo skull assisting in analyzing. Eugene can probably tell you what each machine does, which will reduce the difficulty in going like,
he can also pick up signals, track communications, and be used for comms. Like, he's a Voxhaler comm machine, so he can do plenty.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's fine. Take him on this role.
Great. And then the only other thing I would pitch is I do have legitimate military experience with which the king was excited about. Would that qualify for a boost?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I would take that.
I am going to spend a story point, because getting this guy the fuck out of this place while I have a bomb in my neck feels really important.
3 and 2 for me now. Great. We were at 2 and 3 for those of you who also went with us to One-Shot Land.
Now it's 1 and 4 for you, Tom. Oh, we had 2 and you had 3.
Yeah, I accidentally gave you one. That's how bad at math is.
It's so brave of you.
King
brave
Frederick
but
doesn't
wrong.
do math.
Alrighty, let's see what happens. 1 success and 3 advantage. I will pass the advantage forward to myself. And I think rather than trying to walk the king through the whole plan, Valentine is going to play this as simply and effectively as possible, as he can. And just say, if you're giving me the authority to run the defense, sire, you are welcome to stay and see the work that I am doing, but you are also welcome to return to your party. Safe to know that I, my body, and my skills are between you and any enemy. I would hate for you to miss out on the political event of the year.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a huge relief. That's big relief for me. Your body is kind of small to stand between me and any big angry thing that might be slightly out of sorts with me at the moment, but I appreciate the sentiment and I appreciate the dedication. And I can already tell from the way you're talking to all these chuckle fucks that you've got a great eye for this and that you're going to keep it on lock. You know, between you and me, I'm starting to realize that it may have been a bad call to let you know who design all the defenses, because we've got great stuff for like if a ship shows up, tries to shoot us or whatever. But for this thing, we really got nothing. So, okay, you do your thing. I won't get in your way. You know, you're a man in his element. You know, it seems like you got a good head. Everybody! He like shouts to the crowd. Of course, like everyone is already like busy doing their jobs. It's like he's in a control tower at an airport yelling at everyone. He says, "This guy's the guy now. You listen to him like he's me, but listen, good. All right, you should be good. They'll respect that. I am the law. You know, I am the law here. So
thank you, my liege.
Shoot them if they don't. You got my permission. Just borrow one of the sidearms and just pop. You know." Okay, I'm going to go back to the party then. I want to make sure that your former master isn't fucking this up, because we really need this to go well. There's not going to be another Celestial season for a while. So wouldn't want to disappoint any patrons, you know?
Agreed. I'm sure you are a superb general of political combat, my lord. Now,
You're lucky you succeeded on that deception check.
Well, fuck, for all Valentine can tell, everybody here's naked and loves fucking. He doesn't understand politics at all.
Fair.
That's
Ryan,
a veiled insult.
Yeah. Can you roll me a perception, please?
Perception? Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to say difficulty 3 purple. I'm going to spend a story point to up that to 1 red, 2 purple, dropping us back to 2 and 3.
Okay.
I'm going to say setback for Frederick being real full of space coke and a further setback for trying to deceive him. However, I will drop that setback based on your tempered will piece, because I think even lying comes as second nature to you. So even though it's difficult to observe things in someone else while you are lying.
Also, every servant would be lying to this guy. No servant's going to be like, "You're kind of a fuck up, and I think you should stop doing so much coke." He doesn't get that from butlers.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all. Oh, and I will give you a boost for having observed this guy a lot. I think for someone who is used to having to interrogate a suspect kind of on the fly, to get to observe someone orating publicly a lot. You haven't seen him in private too much. We got a little bit here. I think you've got a good sense of kind of where he's at.
Cool. Let's see what happens.
And I'm sorry, you have your boost that you passed forward to yourself from your previous roll as well.
All right, Tom, we got 4 successes, 2 advantage, and a despair.
Oh,
Oh,
buddy.
I thought we were clear.
Ooh, okay. Genesis never goes easy on
Ryan, you can't
wins.
poker face us for those. Get blindsided.
Yeah, it was an M. Night
I just told
Shyamalan
you
roll.
the order that they come out in the reader. This is just what the world gives us. It's still a shitload of success. So this,
It is.
good luck, Tom.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I know what to do with that. So, Valentine, you notice his tone hitch slightly on patrons. And his eyes kind of briefly just flick, not necessarily in a lying direction or anything to that effect, but you can tell he stumbled over the word and almost said something he shouldn't. He seems less concerned about patrons and more a patron.
Yeah, Valentine's like, motherfucker's involved. Okay, he's got one person who's in charge. It's not a High Lord of Terra, because he's mentioned those in pluralistic form before. Shit. Okay, fine.
For the despair, as Frederick just kind of gives you like the Ross Geller close to his chest double thumbs up. He goes to leave, and following a keep it down, thank you, thumbs up. He goes to leave, and as he does so, he gives one he just pats someone on the shoulder too aggressively on the way out the door. The doors zip shut behind him with a clang, And you're left alone in the command room, finally kind of at the helm of all of these things, someone able to control them. However, with the despair, this is when Eugene kind of twitches and crackles. And how does Eugene report things to you? Because we've established it's not verbally.
Eugene is a Vox hailer. So we were saying, we've said he's able to plug into my head and kind of transmit things directly to me if I want to use him that way. Or he's literally a speaker. We've played music through him before. We've used him as a comm unit in the field.
He's linked to your Auspex, right? Or he is your Auspex? He's
Auspex technically is a scanner, but theoretically, if we could plug him into my head or a data pad, we could plug him into whatever.
I'm mostly saying for transmission of information, not for his voice isn't going to come out of your...
Oh, it's not. If it's not
Auspex.
playing in the room, theoretically, I could pick it up on the data pad if there's a voicemail kind of thing that it's
maybe I could just be clear. Nothing's being transmitted to him. He is being jammed. So all of a sudden, his ability to tap into channels and read things drops off for a moment.
I'd say his mechanical eye that normally glows green is just flickering between green and red and off. So
it's
there's
the router button flickering to let you know your internet's
100%. Or just a really bad Christmas tree is going off inside Eugene's brain. So it's visible that he's non-functional other than flying around.
Yeah. So something is afoot with Eugene. Meanwhile, downstairs, Attikus. You're doing your favorite thing, meeting all the fancy folks. How do you think Attikus will be approaching having to glad hand a bunch of drunk people at a wedding?
Stiffly, woodenly, I would say. Probably without Valentine to help him kind of navigate pushy, kind of noble people who, if they're deep into their cups, are kind of foregoing any form of decorum and just being overly familiar. He doesn't know how hard or soft to push back on that. So I think he would be trying to stick to Duke Wixthorpe, actually, funnily enough, last I recall, Duke Wixthorpe still had his wits about him. He wasn't too inebriated. So he would be sticking with him to hopefully deflect and just handle a lot of the social things so that he could just kind of be silent and stare at literally anywhere he looks is something he's probably never seen before in his entire life.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like that. That makes sense. And yeah, Wixthorpe is very much taking you around. It's the equivalent of you being, even though it's your wedding, technically, it's the equivalent of being a wedding guest that doesn't know anyone and having the person who was invited bring you around and show you off. That said, you are in line for the throne of Greybridge, so there is a tremendous amount is
required. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Attikus, let's go ahead with, I think it's probably charm. Womp womp.
Okay. So
or actually, you know what? I would take cool. Maybe let's go with cool to see how long Attikus is able to keep his shit together.
Sure.
When surrounded by this bacchanalia, as well as all these blowhard boors. So the difficulty is going to be 4, 2 red, 2 purple.
Okay.
Because it's that kind of party. However, I'm going to give you 2 boosts for Wixthorpe because he's legitimately trying to smooth this over for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a boost for not wanting to disappoint Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you a setback for the new robot arm because it means that you walk around like, it's the classic, you've been unburdened of a massive weight that your body has learned to accommodate.
Yeah.
So even though this arm is heavy, it's still, you're a bit wobbly. Anything else you want to make a case for? The story points at 2 and 3.
I don't know if it's even worth using a story point. I think I just have to hope that everyone finds my upcoming outburst charming and amusing.
Like the fatalism of that. It's very nice.
You know what? I'll use a story point because I feel like Attikus, I think, is thinking like we are so fucking close to the finish line. We are in the castle. This is where we wanted to be this whole goddamn time. So we did all of this shit. So he needs it. So get rid of one of my 2 greens and make one of them a yellow. All right,
buddy.
rolling. Oh, it all washed out for one. Oh gosh, are the X's failures or threat?
They're failures.
Okay, so one threat.
Oh, whoa!
It's easier to
Plot
describe
twist.
the X than the other shape, so I just needed to single one of them
Damn.
out.
Incredible. The plot twists keep coming. Okay, so one threat. Very impressive. No one knows what to make of you, Attikus. And Wickstrop himself he knew this was going to be difficult, but you can see on his face that he is, the person who's brought someone home for the first time and is just desperately trying to get everyone to see what he sees.
It's one word answers to any and all kind of prying questions about anything, terse responses, not really looking anyone in the eye because they're ugly to him the way they all are. So just, yeah, their behavior is ugly and unseemly.
Yeah.
Like this, you get court-martialed for this kind of shit.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Wickstrop kind of walks you up to a guy who is very clearly jacked. Like, looks like he's an older dude, but looks like he goes to the gym every single day. Already at a glance, you can tell it's completely artificial. There is no earned muscle on this guy. And he's in like a little dark blue Speedo with an Aquila, just kind of at where the belt buckle would be. And wearing otherwise an open robe to show off his body that is, again, very clearly augmented for muscle. The skin is stretched just ever so slightly at odd places, enough to kind of indicate this. And Wickstrop, just smile on his face, greets this guy very warmly, just warm hug, and turns to you, Attikus, and says, my dear, this is Lord Granthamshire. He is an old friend of the family, and he's rather important to many of the acts of commerce here on Greybridge. His family was one of the architects behind our portion system. It was very easy to do away with currency and to instead ensure that the working folks received things that actually mattered to them, that had value beyond a piece of paper. We understand that thrones are still the currency of the realm, of course, but and meanwhile, Granthamshire is just grinning, just practically striking a pose as his family, not even necessarily his system, is uplifted. Finally says, "The Duke is absolutely correct. It was quite a master stroke by my great-great-grandmammy to ensure that we could keep a steady hand on the tiller, to ensure that all the working people had something that they recognized as valuable that, of course, was not. It was purely decided upon by us. Portions are in no way finite, and yet all the little ants down there on the anthills believe they are. Truly brilliant. Of course, you'll need to learn all of these things, but surely your military experience gives you some insight into this? Some sort of quartermaster system, perhaps? And Wickstrop is looking to you in a, like, don't fuck this up for me, honey, way, that also unfortunately signals to you that though he has greater ambitions for the planet and everything else, he's still from this world. Like, this is still his crowd. How do you respond knowing that you got no successes and no failures?
Probably the way, like, the player, am feeling like, I don't know what I've just been prompted to say. I'm just like... Like, what was all that? Just like, so he'll just like nod his head curtly and say, "Indeed." That's it.
Granthamshire nods, considers it, and nods. And Wickstrop gives you a patient smile. He knows this isn't your jam. Also, you can tell he does find the portion system somewhat distasteful based on your conversations around how poisoned he thinks this world is.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't care, but sure.
Yeah, I know. Just reading you the news, man.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself that's like we've been like shipping these two, and it is not long for this world.
It's all coming
or this
apart.
galaxy.
Job.
Yeah, we'll have to leave a bookmark or something on the episode where the shippers should jump off and then just write their own ending so that they don't get sad.
Yeah.
This ship doesn't have an Eli Sharp to save it.
All right. So, Attikus, you continue to have an awkward time with perhaps the additional stress that I know, me personally as a human outside of the game, if I have something that I know I should be doing, maybe planning a game set in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, and I'm not doing that thing. It is just literally like something tugging at the edge of my consciousness, just constantly. And the fact that you, to your point, you're so close to the finish line. Valentine went off with the Coke King somewhere in the castle, which could be very good or tremendously bad. You don't know where Eli and Morgan are, and more importantly, you don't know where the fucking Ealdari is. I feel like this is just extra torturous for you because there's a mission so close. In video game terms, you can see the marker that will start the mission, but you just fucking can't get over there yet.
Yeah. It's on the other side of some walls and shit.
Yeah, you need a grappling hook, and you haven't unlocked that yet. Come back later. Meanwhile, outside, equally frustrated but in different ways, Eli and Morgan, and of course, Sacator Voidstain, are on. You're on patrol. Eli unfortunately just had a failed roll in determining things, but you were able to find that there might be a gap in the perimeter defenses. Curious to you both is the back, so the north of the grounds where the deliveries and things are made. The area you're patrolling is very manicured. It's essentially a one large smoking porch for the people inside to come out and either have a tumble in the bushes or a smoke outside. And that's not of huge value to you. The walls are, as we described, almost perfectly smooth down here. There are slots to kind of let light in, but it's not like there's a lot of doorways and things you can lurk around. That said, the service entrances and things are clearly around the back. The other piece to all this, of course, is that you have in past been able to contact Lizzo Lizardman for additional information. So that's where we find the two of you. What is your plan here? Originally, you were kind of keeping an eye on the outside of things. What do you think you would be doing? Is it staying on watch for threats, which is of course what you've been tasked with doing, or are you looking for a way in?
I think for Morgan, she's used to sniper positions and waiting things out. So although Eli might be getting very frustrated with this sit and watch and wait, Morgan is fine with that. And so Morgan is still just making banal conversation with Voidstain while making sure that they meander close to other guards. So it's like, I can overhear maybe if there's anything going on there, and just staking out the area. But Morgan's fine being like, we just have to stay here and stay on side. I think there's a concern for her investigating further or further into the back of them getting like... best case scenario, thrown in jail. Worst case scenario, thrown off of this whole thing. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I think it's like it's more important for them to not make waves, because it's like we know that Valentine and Attikus are in there. But in the meantime, if there are any rumblings from other guards or anything going on, she would want to overhear that. But while pretending to be not paying attention and just be wandering around with her fiance, quote unquote.
So many ships, so few ports. Okay, so Morgan, let's get a streetwise.
Okay.
Ooh, skullduggery. Streetwise. This feels like a overhearing things on the street. You're applying it obviously to guards on patrol, but I think this feels more to me like yeah. Okay, so. Go with the streetwise. I'm going to say difficulty of 2. The guards aren't being particularly guarded because theoretically only trustworthy people are out here. I am going to give you a setback for Voidstain because there's no way he's giving you time to talk about stuff. I am going to actually, you know what? I'm going to spend you can drop the setback. I'm going to spend a story point to account for him meddling in your check. So 1 red, 1 purple.
Yes.
That brings our story point situation to 2 and 3 in my favor. So we've got that. I'll give you a boost for Eli having kind of pointed out the guard patterns. It makes sidling up to them in a way that isn't obvious much easier, because you can literally be standing near their patrol path and they have to walk by you talking, which is certainly stealthier than like, well, just meander over, just drift over to these guards. So we'll go for that. I think you can have a boost for having worked in the bar for so long. That makes you very adept at listening to people's conversations surreptitiously. Is there anything else we want to make a case for here? Oh, and sorry, one step back for the threat from Attikus's incredible wash. Cannot be overstated how good a wash that was compared to what those dice were.
Yeah, the only other boost I could possibly have is she also has Toby, so I think it would be could stand near guard, listen. If Voidstain's talking too much, it's like Toby's 2 feet over. I listen less to what I'm hearing and more what Toby is.
Yeah, okay, I'll buy that. I also imagine the comms coming through. A friend of mine has an elderly father who has hearing aids that he'll either turn up if he really wants to hear what you're saying, or just turn off but leave in if he wants to ignore the conversation. Then he'll just his way until people leave. And I feel like you could probably do the same thing with Toby, where he's just like the mix on.
Exactly.
And then I was thinking, well, of course, we're on a mission, so now's not the time. Well, anyway, guard patrols.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, great.
All right.
So, yeah, go ahead and roll. Unless there's anything else you want to make a case for.
That
anyway.
sounds great. We're in the land of weirdo rolls.
Oh, lovely.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 advantages and 1 failure.
Oh, man.
Okay.
So I don't know. Everybody gets a boost. It says, I'm cover for Eli now. I can't hear shit though.
Yeah, okay. So okay. You are listening in, and the guards are unfortunately being extraordinarily professional, which means you're not actually getting anything useful. It's the classic, East Side is reporting that one of the guests broke a shrub. So understand that that's what that is. They had eyes on it. It has been confirmed to have been a guest. The guest is receiving medical assistance. The shrub has been removed. This is being marked for a guard. And they're like repeating it back. And it's just, again, to what Eli discovered earlier, a huge bummer that these people are actually good at their jobs. So yeah, you get absolutely nothing. But being there and I think having Toby looking does give you a good sense of where everything is going. So we'll say the magical advantage being passed along is just you're feeling more comfortable in the space and they'll carry forward. But yeah, unfortunately, even as you tune him out, he's doing that thing that my toddler does when he wants my attention now, which is just like moving in front of your face. It's very much in the Thor movie where Chris Pratt's trying to look at the Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor just slides into frame.
Yeah.
And he's small, so he keeps getting up on his tippy toes. Yeah, and he doesn't even seem to know he's doing it, which makes it all the worse. So, unfortunately, Morgan, you get next to nothing out of that. Let's see if Eli fares better. Eli, you were, I believe, you'd had enough of their bullshit and had gone off on your own, sort of following people piece. Having unsuccessfully spotted anything last time, do you think you'd be heading back, or what would Eli be doing?
I mean, okay, I just want to make sure. I just want to summarize, like, basically what our goals are. A, make sure the wedding and everything around it goes smoothly so that the king will remove the fucking bombs. Then a way in if support is needed. If, like, shit goes down with Eldar or Forest Pollard or anything like that. And then potentially identify exit strategy if need to escape.
Yeah, you and Morgan are essentially tag-alongs at this point because having failed to win the Duke's hand, Morgan technically shouldn't be here. But because you kind of managed to weirdly endear yourselves as indentured servants and assassins to the king before he found an Inquisitor that he doesn't know is an Inquisitor to do it instead, you kind of got a ride, essentially. Yeah. So you're limited in your access purely based on kind of the level of successes you had to this point. But yeah, the official story is you're keeping the wedding safe. The unofficial story is if you misbehave, you get blown up. And then the actual mission is like find Trin Rakai somewhere aboard this vessel. With all that in mind... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, is there anywhere that we haven't explored yet that is on this crazy flying palace that is not actually inside the building proper?
So you've seen the front and I believe the west side. The north side you got an eyes on, and that's the loading dock delivery piece. You haven't looked at the east side. Yeah.
Well, let's complete the circuit, baby.
Hell yeah. Okay, so you make your way over and do in fact see a tree that has been knocked over. There is
a tree?
A shrubbery. A shrubbery. Had to say it or it was going to be like an unsneezed sneeze. So you see a shrubbery that's been knocked over by a drunk. The guys on the ground being sort of seen to. There is a guard there just to make sure nothing untoward happens. But you can tell that on this side, there are a couple more of these doors that open and shut. Both of them are open, though. So there are a lot of guests coming and going. It would seem that this side, as is often the way, it's just the side people kind of spill out onto more so than the other side. It might be closer to the drinks. So there are couples and thruples and all manner of combination of folks coming out to kind of enjoy being outside and being in the sky. It's a cool, rare thing when you're that high.
So does this seem like almost like what would be like the side entrance that, it's like you're at a wedding.
That's
and
it.
It's like,
That's
and it's like
exactly
you're in a hall, but you got to step out for some air. You don't go through the front door. You're just like, get this fucking emergency exit. Ignore that sign.
Precisely. So the other side, it feels like people are respecting the emergency exit and closing it behind them. Here, there's enough traffic coming and going. It's a lot like, hold the door. And that classic kind of like one drunk person notices that a door is open and then like waves to their friends. So there's just a bit of traffic. There are guards at both of these doors that seem to have stepped off patrol to just stand there and like... They're doing the awkward, Buckingham Palace thing, but it does mean that the patrols on this side seem to be somewhat spotty.
I was going to say, do I recognize from where they were patrolling before, or is it like...
Yeah, you can safely assume that with the one guard on the sick person and the broken shrub, and then the sets of guards on both doors, there is one guard actively patrolling, and they seem to be the ones sending the reports through to the side that Morgan is hearing. But this is definitely a weaker side. There's a lot more chaos on this side.
Interesting.
Lowercase c chaos, not like
chaos.
Thank
you. Okay. In that case, I think I would like to see... I want to get a sense of how the guards interact with the guests and the other people coming in and out. Is there recognition? Are they just doing their job and kind of like eyes front, like Buckingham Palace guards?
Sure.
Or how aware are they? Like, is there recognition in their faces? Like, they know these people. Basically, I want to figure out, like, hey, would we be able to attack a guest and take their clothes and sneak in? Like, is that like a viable way of getting past the guards? Or is it like
I like this.
Or is there a familiarity?
Let's go with perception, I think, for kind of standing by and watching this. Although I would take an argument for discipline if you... let me ask you this, maybe. If Eli is just soft focus observing this, I would go with perception because he's just looking to see what he can see. If, however, you're only watching the guards, not the guests, I would say we can go with discipline because you're leaning on your military experience to see if you had posted guards around your ship, how would they react to civilians? Which I think is a viable argument for Eli in terms of how he would observe things.
Yeah. Okay. My thought is if my perception roll was successful, it would get me more information. Yes. However, I think that because of his history, I think he discounts the capability of civilians in terms of when it comes to military stuff. I think he assumes it's a given that he would be able to handle them. And so it's really he's just watching the guards.
That makes sense.
He thinks they're a threat.
Cool.
Civilians are idiots that'll get in the way, but...
Yeah. So let's go with discipline then. I'm going to say difficulty of 3 because they're wearing helmets. Makes things a bit harder.
Okay.
Difficulty of 3, you can have a boost for just how many chances you get at this, because there are so many people coming and going that you have ample opportunity to observe.
Cool.
I'll give you a further boost for the fact that these aren't guards on patrol. They've had to break their patrol pattern, which means that they are not in their most professional element.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I think that's it, to be honest, because I don't think there's any setback for them observing you, because they're not paying attention to you. Mm-hmm. You and Morgan have the benefit of not being a part of their scheduled troop positioning anyway, so they're just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, it's the king's weird rent-a-cops, who gives a shit.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, I'm good with that.
All right, I shall roll. I don't have any advantage moving forward, right? No boost from that?
You did get some from Morgan's wild ride. So that's one additional boost for Morgan rolling 1,000 million advantage.
Excellent, I take it. And that is, let me make sure I get this symbol right. Yes, 6 successes, 1 advantage.
Oh, shit. Eli motherfucking Sharp.
There, we did it.
So
amazing.
Eli, what you start to realize from watching these guards is there is a bit of, honestly, ship, like naval familiarity, as you would see on a long haul trip, because all of the people who are fancy enough to be in the Cloud Palace stay in the Cloud Palace year round. So this is a party, but what you're seeing is it is very clear that these guards know, honestly, everyone, not necessarily by name, but the way that, again, when you were a quartermaster on your ship, if there's a group that you were escorting somewhere, you would know them all at least by habit. Like, okay, this guy always causes a problem. Now, admittedly, there is an element of chaos to all of this, again, lowercase, because of the party. So this is a celebration. Everyone is more inebriated than they would be normally, although, as we have established from inside the Cloud Palace, it's like this all the time. This is just worse because it's an occasion. Like, this has given them a reason to cut even further loose. But yes, you recognize a lot of familiarity. So to your earlier question about knocking out a guest and pulling an Agent 47, taking their clothes, and hitmanning your way into the building, it's not impossible, but it is difficult.
Okay.
So having observed this, I think you would probably loop back around to Morgan. You guys have been away for a bit. You find Morgan trying to listen in on some guards while being verbally assaulted by her greatest nemesis, Sacketer Voidstain in love. So you approach them. The guards kind of move past. You're able to share any of these observations with Morgan. Would you choose to do so?
Yeah, like she gets a official report.
Okay. So we'll assume then that, Morgan, you now have that. I don't think we need to role play you describing what we just saw.
Yeah.
So
there's
the two
a lot
of you
of grunting.
Yeah.
discipline.
Yeah.
So the two of you get that information. At which
Morgan
point
would be like, "Oh, I dropped my cape over there. Secretary, will you get it for the minute?"
No.
Run.
Of course. A lost cape, and there's a breeze. I would hate to see it flutter away. And off he runs.
And then, like, getting the DL from Eli.
Great. So you've learned then that the east side has vulnerabilities, that the guests are all familiar to the guards. At which point, Morgan, there is a blast of static in your inner ear as Toby begins to get jammed. Now, you'd be familiar, I think, with this. You've certainly encountered this before. What do you do?
Is it just Toby, or are also our microbeads being jammed?
Also your microbeads.
Okay. All right. Then it would be, would she still be able to even communicate with Toby if he's fully jammed? No, not even to him or out, but not even to her own in her head. She usually communicates with him that way.
Yeah. No, if it requires radio transmission between or like Wi-Fi transmission between things, it is not going.
Right. So then Toby would go into basically standby mode where he would just probably find a place to sit and circle randomly.
Sure.
Because it's like without any input, he just become bird.
He do bird patrol. All right, great. So Toby begins to circle.
Right. And she would turn to Eli and just tug on his arm. It seems that there are some kind of communications jamming at work. We may need to step up our getting inside.
Are we the only ones affected by this?
It's a good question. Why don't you look and see what those guards are doing?
And Eli's gonna kind of take a closer look to be like, is there any like weird disruption in chatter between guard patrols? Are they putting their hands, their fingers to the ear, being like tapping their headset?
Yeah, the Han Solo headset problem. They are not. In fact, you see one of them pause, hand to ear as you do, and say, "It would seem that the shrub situation has been resolved fully. Lord Featherbottom is back in the party. He's been cut off for the evening, but we can't expect further shenanigans from him. He always seems to find more libations. But I am getting reports that at least 37 has returned to her expected patrol." And the other one just nods, says, "Thanks for the report. Shall we?" And the two of them continue their wander, but official comms seem to be working just fine for these two.
Rawls. What the hell? Who is this?
I don't know. And then she'll go up to the bird and be like, Toby, stay. Follow Eli. Because he could take like auditory directions like he did with Valentine. So then he would just go land on Eli because Eli is also able to give him commands. It seems we need to stick together. Perhaps it is only us being affected by this, and I do not know why that would be. We're alone again.
Shit. This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features the voices of players Brian LaPlante, Tyler Hewitt, Laura Hamstra, and Del Borovic, alongside Game Master Tom McGee. This episode was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and the Valentyne Heresy's artwork was created by Del Borovic at delborovic.com. That's DELBOROVIC. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ad breaks use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR. All of their music is available at freemusicarchive.org. For all things Dum Dums and Dice, including merchandise and how to join our Patreon, you can visit dumdumdice.com or find us on social media at dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christopher Little, George Dolby, Richard Cranium, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Stabby Stranger, Glitch Trick, Flynn1138, Alarain Okapi, Schrodinger's Pepper, Madre de Gatos, Lady Maiden, Garbo Ape, Locke, Sam Schaefer, Waffle Marine, Dagger Rain, Rob L, Dia De Los Hoodless, Squishy Werewolf, Remy, Funky Head, Nomad, the Wise Paladin of the Badlands, Accent Therapeutic Services in Florence, Kentucky, Lael, Shulzari, The Long Family, Jordan Oliver, Richard Wright, Brittany Fenwick, Alex Parr, Old Man Mojo, Dragonfly, The Body Barrelers, Megan Werner, A Man Out of Time, Curtis at FingerTechRobotics.com, Panda24NN, Shendra D, Your Homeboy Bones, The Gator Family, Ellis Hatch, Odigenous, Dan the Welshman, Afflicto Gaming, Aiden, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.